Hi friends, this is Rick, and I want to tell you right off the bat, this is not a video for anybody under the age of anything. If you were underage, you are not welcome here at Kick Rocks. I do not make content in any form for anybody that's a minor, because, well, I just don't want to go there. Between the swearing, the cussing, the idiocy, and other fun and interesting facts, Kick Rocks. Anyway, strippers, prostitutes, there's a list of different titles and names, and I'm not going to go down around them, but you work at a convenience store in some neighborhoods for a long enough period of time, you are going to encounter some pretty jaw-dropping things. It's going to make you, well, make a young man step back and go bug-eyed and go, okay, right? So, this is one of those videos where we're going to talk about that sort of thing. And this has happened to me on several different occasions. Now, when I worked for, once upon a time, it was Peaster Derby when I worked there the first time, and then it was Coastal some years later. But the fact that two lots up the street from me is a car lot, and that car lot is sitting on what used to be a Peaster Derby gas station right across from the Firestone plant. And then some years later, Peaster Derby was purchased by Coastal, and it became a Coastal store. And I don't know if Coastal's still in existence. I don't see any Coastals in town, so I think somebody else bought Coastal up in the last 20 years. Anyway, particular street that this Peaster Derby slash Coastal sits on leads up to a very large lake called Sailorville. So we get a lot of people come and go. There's also a number of strip clubs. As I said in some of my other videos, I live catty corner across behind a place called Big Earl's, which is a strip club. And there was 3 or 4 further up the road. There still are a couple up there. Not as many as there were back in the 80s and 90s and 70s. Some of those are long gone and closed up. Others have moved to other locations around the outside the city limits, so to speak. And one occasion, I had this young lady come into the station and made the comment, "Have you, all these strip clubs and stuff?" So she says, "I imagine you get strippers in there all the time." And I said, "Well, I suppose I do, but how would I know? They don't wear name tags and badges and things like that." And she kind of laughed, and she says, "Well, are they as pretty as me?" And I'll grant you, she was pretty. Matter of fact, she was out of my league. I'm just being truthful. I would never attempt to date somebody of her beauty because, well, frankly, I'm a big lump of an individual and tend to have a different aesthetic appeal, right? Anyway, she was just kind of teasing me, but I was a little slow on the uptake because I was still trying to figure out exactly what she wanted. And she says, "Well, do they ever do this?" And then she starts to this row. And my jaw hits the counter. I mean, I'm sitting there, my mouth hanging open, and I'm drooling, and this young woman, who technically wasn't much different in age than me, strips down to her bottoms, her panties, and that's that. I mean, they just took off everything in the store, laughing the whole time, and then pays for her gas and runs out butt naked almost butt naked, jumps in her car with her friends who are laughing and drive up the road, leaving me completely, utterly stunned as to what, what just happened, right? I mean, hello, yeah, that was 20 or something like that, 21. It was, yeah, right. Now this same location, like I said, this first event took place when I worked there, and when it was a piece of dirt. And then I went to work for some restaurants and stuff, and 3 or 4 years later, I come full circle and ended up going back to work at this location, but for a different manager, and it was Coastal at that point. And say the middle of the summer, we had some young people come up, and they had a convertible, and they're not a convertible pickup, if you believe that. It might have been a Bronco with the top off of it. Either way, it was pulling a trailer, and they were running around, and she come in. One of these gals, well, I was 2 of them, but they were wearing swimwear bikinis. bikini tops, Daisy Duke bottoms, because that was the thing, or it just was shorts and tops, and started running around the store and laughing and yelling. And then one come up and said, and basically took her top off and flashed me for no reason I could understand whatsoever, other than she was in a really good mood or intoxicated or God knows what. And she's laughing, and I'm drooling, and I don't know what to say. And potentially, they might have ripped off the entire store, and I wouldn't have known it. I'm just saying that sometimes people do things for the strangest reasons. Now, other times, people do things for pretty obvious reasons, blatant ones. So going back to my favorite convenience store, the 7-Eleven, that was in the middle of the 22nd University, in the middle of was considered the hood at the time. It's still kind of a dodgy neighborhood, but it's a lot nicer than it used to be. I can tell you that right now. Anyhow, I had this middle-aged lady come in. Now, I was in my mid-20s at that point, 24 or 25, something like that, when I was working there. And she come in late in the evening and said to me blatantly straight out, says, I need to get some cigarettes. I need a carton of cigarettes and something, a bottle of something, and I don't have enough money to pay for it. And I'm like, well, then I guess you're not getting your stuff. She says, well, we can work on the trade. And being the slow, dense individual that I tend to be, I'm like, I don't know, what kind, I'm sorry, but what are you going to trade me for a carton of cigarettes and blah, blah, blah. And she takes off her top. And didn't even bat an eye, just took her top off. She's sitting there with her bra, and this is all on videotape, mind you. Occasional customer wandering in the store. I had one person wander in and didn't even looked at her twice and then went on about her business. I can only imagine. The other clerk that was working was just having a canary, didn't know what to do. And I'm straight up says, "You're going to trade me your shirt?" I'm sorry, but I don't have any use for that shirt. She says, "No, but we can go in the back room and you can do whatever you want for 15 minutes. Yeah, right? Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie. The thought went through my head. The thought went through my head. And I was not dating at that time. I didn't have a date. I was between my ex-wife and my current wife. I was eligible. I had no qualms about meeting older women in bars and having, having some kind of entertaining evenings. But the idea, this person was so blatantly obvious and open, I didn't know what to think. And I didn't want to overthink. I really could not bring myself to take her up on that offer. And she was an attractive person. I mean, she didn't take it personal or nothing, but the obvious was there. But I also couldn't think of what sort of life would you need to, how casual was that? You ever had anything like that happen where you were somewhere and somebody just casually suggests, well, hey, let's go in the back and work out a trade? I mean, I'm a bit of a paranoid individual, so, it did occur to me that maybe this was a police trap of some kind. Although, why they would go to this kind of thing, I didn't understand, and I probably will never understand. I also understand that there are people out there who are, that's just the nature of their lives. They have value and they value certain ways of doing things, and this may have worked for her on numerous occasions, and she could have been a professional entertainer of some sort who has absolutely no issue with that sort of thing. I'm not trying to say that she had low morals or scruples or any of that crap. I mean, I don't want to presume to understand what goes through somebody else's mind and what they will and won't do in a situation to get what they need, to have their needs met. Because the world's a bad place, and and we're not very, as a country, more and more the way things are going right now, I feel like we're a failed state. Something's gone terribly wrong in this country over the last 20 years, especially since spring has really become openly bad. So people are desperate and will do desperate things. And a lot of desperate things people will do will put other people in prison because they're not supposed to accept that sort of desperation. You think about that if you're a landlord and some of your tenants are desperate to keep a roof over their kids' heads and they're willing to do whatever it takes. You can go to prison if you act on that suggestion, is saying. Now, being when I was younger and more adventurous or stupid or a combination thereof. It had been a different situation or setting, perhaps, but I was so jaded by the amount of drama and crazy that came in and out of that convenience store that this was just yet another one of those what the F moments. And plus there was other people around the store and everybody's, staring or not staring or looking or not looking or listening or not listening. And this other, I had, as the assistant manager, you just don't do certain things while you're on the, it's just not ethical to do things while you're on the clock. And it's definitely in this society today, not so much ethical either. But things were different then than they are now, that they were. I mean, it's not the first time I've had in those days that had somebody want to offer something else than cash. I can tell you a couple times I had people offer me weed, and back in the day I was a pothead, so I had no real qualm about exchanging goods for other goods, and then I would compensate. So in the case of somebody giving me weed to buy booze, I'd give them the booze, and then I'd pay for the booze out of my pocket. And I had weed, they had their beer, and the store had this money. Everything's kosher. I just didn't do it on the counter open with everybody to see it. Right? I mean, you just common sense says you be careful what you do. I also knew the person, so I wasn't some stranger just bumming in out of nowhere. Because once again, my paranoia factor would have kicked in and said, "So is this a cop thing?" Because cops can tell you anything they want to tell you. They can lie. They'll tell you they don't, and there are good cops. But there's enough bad cops or dodgy cops out there that you're a fool if you talk to them for anything that doesn't involve something serious. If you get pulled over and they want to do something, demand your rights. Don't talk to them without a lawyer, because they can tell you, they can twist everything and tell you something. This is your last chance to be able. If you come out with us now, this will go easier on you. That's a load of BS. That's a load of BS. What you see on TV shows today is potentially a load of BS too. And until you're onto the other side of that equation, you'll never understand what I'm talking about. You really can't. We're seeing it more openly today now than ever in the past, but it's always been this way. And not necessarily, acceptable in our society. It's another part of that failed state, broken society thing. And I'm already ranted enough on the subject. So, like I said, I had 3, 4, 5, about 5 different incidents of this sort. Either people come in and taking their clothes off, or offering to take their stuff off in exchange for. And there was one occasion at a coastal I worked at down by the state fairgrounds, where the person in question was drunk, and a guy, and he took all his clothes off and was strutting around the parking lot for some reason nobody could quite understand. He just wandered off down the street. We never quite understood what that was about. I did collect his clothes up and put them in a sack and set them on top of a pump for him. But to my best of my knowledge, he never came back and got him. But we do not know what that one was about. So it's an equal opportunity thing here. So, like I said, have you ever had some of these interesting and very strange or dramatic situations at your employment? If so, hey, share. We all like to hear. Till next time, this is Rick, and you're not.